and programs and provide them to you and to loved ones in this community. And we have Stewart and St. Anne's Healthcare. We have Southcoast Hospitals and their programs and services that deal with elder care. We have Bristol Elder Services with their programs, very important. Family Service has a myriad of programs as well. And so they've come here today. They have items to hand out to you, from notepads to pertinent information about services you may not be clear about.
And a pen and you want to take any of our
Thank you for being here at the community conversation on senior issues. And we're very grateful that you took time out of your day to be here. Before we get started, again, I want to give a special thanks to the providers that are here today. And they'll be here after the talk. And we hope that if you haven't had a chance to go to their tables, we've specifically invited them here for you to share the information with your neighbors, your friends, because they have valuable resources for you, and we'd like you to know about them. From the fire department here, Lieutenant LePage, we have Nancy from Bristol Elder Services, we have Southcoast Hospitals and Stewart Hospitals here, St. Anne's Hospital, and Family Services. So we're very blessed to have these great providers who care so much for our seniors in this community. But before I get started, on behalf, we flipped a coin, and I won the toss. So a three-way coin, I won the toss.
Representative, you always win that toss.
Being the only girl around, sometimes that's what happens. But we are so honored to have with us today the House of Representatives Chair, the chairperson of the Elders Affairs Committee, who's come here from the State House to share with you what's happening on the state level in terms of elder issues, and more importantly, to get your feedback on what you think the state needs to do better to serve our seniors. She's got some startling information, positive and very, alarming and startling as well. And so without further ado, I would like to introduce to you our chairwoman, who happens in her profession to have been a nurse at Brigham and Women's Hospital, and no one knows compassion and cares for seniors more than a nurse. And so I'm thrilled, on behalf of Rep. Schmid, Rep. Silvia, and myself, to welcome the chair, Denise Garlick. Thank you for being here.
So good afternoon, and I want to thank Rep. Fiola, Rep. Silvia, and Rep. Schmid for inviting me here to speak to their seniors. I'm talking to seniors all across the Commonwealth, and one of the seniors said to me, you know, I used to go to the State House and protest, but I can't get there anymore. And I said, don't worry, your representatives, Rep. Schmid, Rep. Silvia, and Rep. Fiola are coming to you. So I hope you feel like you're going to be heard today. I want to tell you a little bit about the presentation. The first thing is we have passed out a survey to everyone who's here today. On the survey, we're not asking for any identifying information. We're just asking you to tell us how life's going for you today, what you think is working, what you think we should work on more. And that will help us to plan how to use our resources and where to use our resources. So let me start out, and see, you didn't know that either, right? Because you don't see those seniors, you don't know about those services. Right now, a major issue in the Commonwealth, as I'm talking to people, is senior housing. The Commonwealth spends $7 million, presently a little bit more than $7.5 million, on supportive housing for seniors. Excuse me? Oh, I'm here to tell me I have 5 minutes left, okay. So, a little bit more than $7.5 million on senior housing. This is supportive housing. This might be a way we can kind of meet housing needs as well as get services in a place that all need to be. How many people here in Fall River feel like there's enough flexibility that you can make different decisions? You want to downsize your house, you want to go to supportive housing, you want to get an apartment at affordable prices? Is that working out for you? No, it's not working out for seniors anywhere, I gotta tell you. And the last story I want to tell you is about protective services. So protective services, the Commonwealth is now spending $23 million on protective services. So what does that mean? A lot of that money is in the Attorney General's office, and it's in the office of some of the sheriffs. And that's, you know, those phone calls you get that never stop, all the financial scams. It's the contractors who show up at the house and they seem reliable and they seem friendly, and a year and a half down the road you found out you spent way too much money for something because you trusted that person. This is an issue around financial scams for seniors. You know, and it can be anything. When people are trying to sell you financial packages, anything like that, we are investigating all of those when we're notified. One of the things seniors need to know, when something like that happens, your fire chief is here. Hello, chief. But you also need to contact your local police department immediately. Seniors don't do this because they're embarrassed and they don't want their adult kids to find out they've made a mistake, but you've got to report it right away so that mechanisms can go into action. The other thing is that bad stuff is happening out there to seniors, really bad stuff. Rep Fiola told you that I was a nurse. I was a nurse at the Brigham, and I took care of a guy that I just loved. I took care of him for 2 months straight. He was a senior, he had broken his hip, he went on to have every complication you could have. You know, he had the broken hip, and the wound got infected, and he had a blood clot, and they put him on anticoagulants, and then he had a bleed, and then he had pneumonia, because he was in bed so much, and he kept coming through everything. He was like this little miracle, right? And finally it's time for him to go home, and I am so personally proud of how he has done that. And his daughter says to me the night before he's supposed to go home, he can't go home. And I said to her, oh, of course he can go home. Trust me, this is a medical miracle. He's amazing, he can go home. And she said, he can't go home because he broke his hip because my brother pushed him down the stairs. So some really bad stuff is happening, right? And sometimes it's happening because there's bad people. This guy just had a bad son, right? But it's also happening because these people that don't have support for home care and are trying to take care of their loved one are getting overwhelmed and they're exhausted. And they think they can do this job that they really can't. They want to keep mom home, but they didn't understand what Alzheimer's can look like in the end stages. They want to keep dad home, but they didn't realize that with dementia, people can become abusive, and they can't tell anyone, right? They can't tell anyone because this is their loved one, and they shouldn't be complaining, they think. Or they can't tell anyone. A woman today said she couldn't tell anyone how bad it was because the minute she said that, they wanted to put her husband in a nursing home. And so she didn't tell anyone, but she said things weren't good. Bad things were happening. So that money, that $23 million on protective services, I really honor and respect that money, and I'm glad we're spending that money. So that's where we're spending the money now, right? I'm going to ask you representatives to come back up with me and open this up for discussion. And I'm hoping what would be helpful to me is if you could answer those surveys as honestly as you can to help us plan. And maybe for discussion, if you could make sure that we talk about housing and transportation so I can understand what's happening down here, that would be a big help. Okay, so let's just open it up.